everybody. I had a few problems there, just getting the technology to work. So I'm just gonna get our social media in the background, and then we can see who we have joining us today, and we can also interact with everyone and see what messages and comments we have. Give me 1 second, you might be able to hear our voices in the background.
Live streaming.
Yeah. Right, good, okay. We are good to go. Sorry.
Technology is working.
Technology's working. I think I confused it, didn't I? Trying to do too many things at once. So, welcome to day 2 of our lunchtime lives. And today we have the fabulous Yvette, who is going to be sharing a personal story about chaos during COVID in terms of career. So, it's very exciting. We're really excited to hear your story and your personal journey, and also top tips from you with your personal experiences to help anyone else that might be in your scenario. So as we know, we're in a pandemic and there's lots of uncertainty, and people's jobs are being impacted. They are every day. So we want to have another one of our beautiful Soul Squad to just spread some of her light. Yvette always light with her, and try to help in the current situation for anyone who might be going through or have a family member or a friend who's going through a similar situation. So hello Yvette, welcome.
Oh, thank you.
So nice to have you here.
Oh, thank you very much. It's lovely to be here. It's really actually quite nice, because when I was looking at doing this, I was thinking, oh, do you know, is there stuff that I can talk about? And actually over the last 3 weeks, well, in life, but then of course over the last 3 weeks as well. So yeah, it's been really helpful.
Good. So I'm just going to go to comments, Yvette, before we start and see who we've got on the line. I'm trying to do 2 things at once, so yeah, give me a minute. So we have Donna's on the line. Hi Donna. We've got Suzanne.
Hi Donna.
Kirsty, Heather, Joe, Wendy, Julie. Hello everyone. Thank you for joining us. So hopefully we'll have some more join along the way. If not, hashtag replay. If you watch it on replay, please make sure that you still interact in the comments as well. So, Yvette, do you want to just start by sharing what has happened to you over the last few weeks during COVID?
Yeah, so I mean, much the same as a lot of people at the moment. There was our company put around 30% of our guys off on furlough, and then shortly after that they announced some redundancies for people that were on fixed term contracts, which I am at the moment. And you know, you go through all of the emotions. You go through the why me, this isn't fair, I'm really angry about this, crying, etc. And I think my first thing that I would say is take that time, give yourself a time limit. So I gave myself a day. I called it the kick the cat day, but there were no cats that were kicked, don't worry. And I kind of raged and cried and felt all the feels, you know. That's my saying, feel the feels. You've got to get that stuff out, otherwise it just builds up. So I did that, and then I thought to myself, gosh, do you know what, it's been a really long time since I've been out in the market as I'm not going to call it a job seeker, I'm calling it like a job attraction process. So I thought, right, okay, and the situation we're in right now as well is unique. So there are a lot more people out there looking for work and a lot less jobs. So I thought, okay, what can I throw myself into that is going to keep me steady, but also be educational? So for the last sort of 3 weeks, I've been on webinars and lives and just interacting with loads of HR recruiters, recruitment people, people that you guys have recommended, which has been great. Thank you. I'll name check them all at the end, but it's just been great. And I tell you, I put a post on LinkedIn the other day about this, and I said, I know we're celebrating our NHS heroes, and I know we're celebrating carers and delivery guys and stuff, but honestly, HR people, recruiters, talent management people, whatever you guys call yourselves, you need a shout out, because the content that you guys are putting out there at the moment is just so useful. So I've got to show you this because this is nuts, right? So I decided to deconstruct my CV based on some of these tips.
Wow,
that's my creative little workings out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the thing for me was as well is you've almost got to unlearn everything that you've learned with regards to how to put a CV together, how to do an interview. Everything's so different now, let alone because we're in the middle of a pandemic, but because things move on, right? And so yeah, so I got some really good tips, and it was really hard at first because you're kind of deconstructing everything that you do and you're thinking, yeah, you know, but how do I pull out the really positive things about that? And that's where I've sort of engaged with a lady called Adrienne Tom, who I quoted in that Facebook post today. And so a couple of her tips, can I just dive straight into those? Are you happy if I dive?
Well, I think I just want to go through a little bit around because clearly, before we get under the tips, you go through the change curve.
Yeah.
Quickly. Like you've given yourself a whole day. I mean, a whole day? Like can you not go through the change curve quick? I mean, like a whole day. Like how long have you worked at your current job?
So I've been in my current company for 14 months, I think it is. I recently moved from one team to another in January, which is another reason why I was a little bit, because it's such a lovely company to work for. You know, the people are great, the brand is fantastic. So it was a real kind of, you know, kick in the guts, and I was thinking there's so much that I want to do here. You know, the predecessor who I'm covering of for mat leave was fantastic, and she really laid down some great groundwork, but it made me really excited because I could then move things on. So yeah, I know I'm a bit of because I thought to myself, can I go through this change curve quicker? Because you know what I'm like, and I was like, no, you really just need to kind of go with the flow on this. Yeah,
giving yourself a day, and that's the bit I wanted to just get out, because obviously we know each other. Like you were really excited about the future of your role in the business, and you were really, you know, you were wanting to progress your career, and you had all of these goals that you wanted to have. So for anyone else who's watching this, who's in that position, like you said, to kick in the guts because you've just moved teams, you love what you do, you love working for the company, you've got these plans that you want to progress, and then all of a sudden the kick in the guts happens. And it's I've been made redundant 3 times. It's difficult at that point. I know you give yourself a day to not why is it happening, the victim energy, let's call it, where you're being in this low level conscious, why is this happening to me? But did you allow anything else to start running crazy in there, or were you aware, you know?
Oh yeah, I mean, just because I did it in a day doesn't mean all of that stuff didn't happen. It just happened at high speed all at the same time.
Yes.
So it was, am I ever going to find another job? You know, I'm in my 40s now. Does that make me unemployable? I know these are crazy things. Yeah, I've just dyed my hair pink. What does that mean for job opportunities and you know, interviews? Silly little things like that. But you know, is this the universe trying to tell? Because I'm quite a spiritual. I call it a tree hugging hippie, but I'm a spiritual person. So I do genuinely believe that things happen for a reason, and that is the most annoying thing to say. I know there's a lot of people that go, "Oh, it's all happening for a reason." Even when you believe in that, when you're going through something like that at that point, you think, what is the reason? Like, you know, I thought I had this nailed down. Like, come on. So yeah, it was all of that stuff was going through my head, and then the real kind of you know, the bottom rung of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You know, how am I going to pay my bills?
Yeah.
I'm the main breadwinner out of the 2 of us, and Colin's salary can't cover all of our bills. And then even though the country is in the same, we're all in the same boat, and there are a lot of people that are having to ask for 3-month holidays on their bills, which I've had to do. You kind of, it's almost like a weird feeling of shame, like, oh God, I have to do this. Like, I have to ask for help. I have to ask for a payment break, which is just nuts. I know that, but you know, those are the emotions that you kind of go through.
Okay. And you start, thank you for sharing that, because for all you've done it quickly in a day, like for some people, they could be stuck in that low level of consciousness for days, weeks and months. So
Yeah, and it's not to say that doesn't take work daily. I think where I say I did it in a day, I didn't process everything in a day. It was just I gave myself a day to kind of be in a bit more of a lower vibration and a negative headspace. And every day is work. I'm not going to lie. Like every day, you have to put things in place to keep your vibration at a level where you're not disappearing down a rabbit hole of what ifs, but like what ifs on the negative side, you know. So
I think that would be good to share before you, and this might be part of your top tips. But for you, it's still daily. You're not in low vibration, and if you are, you're doing something to bring yourself up, because you've got that level of consciousness, which is great. So I don't know if that's in your top tips, but I think it'll be useful to share for anyone who's going through this or feels the same. What is it that you're doing daily? And this might be in your top tips, to get your vibration on a higher level so that you're not in that to me, like feeling done to.
yeah, and you're going to laugh at this because I never thought these words would come out of my mouth. Routine.
Oh my, dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, because you know me too well. I just rebel against anything that kind of comes across as routine. But genuinely, that has helped me so much. Having a morning routine, and I'm not going to lie, I don't stick to it every morning. I'm probably 80 to 90% there most mornings. And that doesn't mean that you have to throw yourself into any crazy meditation in the morning necessarily. Sometimes my meditation is literally just looking at my planner and kind of jotting down the stuff that I want to achieve during the day.
Yeah.
Just having that focus and those questions that kind of go through, well, how do I want to show up today? You know, and Donna mentioned something the other day, which was, I've got it on my post-it note here, which has disappeared off of, oh, here it is, it's on my laptop, which is show me how to serve for the highest good of all today. And so I ask myself that question every day. And the morning routine could be anything. I mean, you know, for me, it is my planner. Sometimes it's a meditation, which is great. Sometimes it's having my coffee out on the patio and just listening to the crazy birds outside if it's not raining. You know, then it's, you know, having a shower, you know, whatever it is that sets you up for that day so you can kind of, you know. And I think the key thing with that is, especially if you're looking for a job at the moment, is these such a horrible corporate phrase, but power hours. So scheduling those. So, and that was a bit of advice you guys gave me as well on the day that I found out, which is great, because you could spend all day either avoiding the situation and just focusing on your work if you are still working, or you could spend all day completely down a rabbit hole of actually applying for jobs and kind of, I call it CV vomiting over. Yeah, if you schedule, so for me, I have an hour in the morning before I actually start work, and what I'll do is I'll catch up on any LinkedIn conversations that I might have started the night before. You know, that's part of my morning routine as well. Then I get on and do work calls and all the rest of it, and then I have an hour in the afternoon whenever I can fit it in the diary, which is when I then start reaching out. I'll have a look at what jobs are on LinkedIn. And the other thing as well is that I learned a stat the other day, is that when you're putting your CV out to, say you're applying through one of the job sites, it only has a 10% success rate of being seen or interviewed or what have you. So one of the tips that these guys said was, if you have someone on your LinkedIn that say works for Hays and you're applying for a job through Hays Recruitment, give them a message, drop them a message with job role that you're interested in, ask them if it's one that they're looking after, send them your CV and make the personal contact, because that just generates a better impression. So I think the tips about the power hours as well, and also, you know what, we're human. If you want to have a gin on a Tuesday night because you've had a bit of a rough day, do it. You know, don't give yourself grief, you know. And the only other thing I would say as well, and I'm not saying that I've got all of these nailed, but, you know, get outside, get into nature, go and have a walk, hug a tree, whatever, you know.
Yeah. And that they are amazing. I think particularly, like, we do talk about routine, and like you say, it doesn't, every routine doesn't have to be different. The purpose of a routine is to raise your vibration. Is to, if you get up and you're feeling a bit low because you're in the current situation and the fear takes over and the security and the, oh God, what's going to happen, the future tripping.
Yeah.
To us all, it's recognizing that you're doing that and then choosing to do something to raise your levels. Because if you're spewing, CV spewing, or applying for roles in the to me, low level energy, oh God, why is this happening to us? And I can't believe, and I knew this is always happens to me, and I've been, and then you're applying for roles like your spiritual, your energy, you know, the energy that you're giving when you're sending that CV or thing off, like we believe the energy hits the other end.
It does, yeah, absolutely. It's not a great place to be. The intention behind anything that you send, whether it's verbal or email or letter, the intention behind that is felt, you know, so yeah. But I think I had great fun redoing my CV in the end, because the way that these guys are talking about it now, some of these great CV or resume, as the Americans call it, writers, is it's very much a storytelling rather than listing your tasks. So I think one of the things I put on there was CAR, which is challenge, action, and results. So simply put, what was the challenge, what actions did you take, and what was the result? And if you can do that for most of your roles, it will start to help formulate the things that you can pull out. But the lady called Adrienne Tom, she just went on and asked 3 different questions, which I found really interesting, which was, what brought me to the role? What was the challenge? And when I walked away from the role, what was I most proud of? So it could be, I mean, thinking about it, and there's ways of pulling this into your CV, but for example, if somebody has headhunted you, or you've worked with them in the past and they've said, you know what, we know you're a safe pair of hands, we know that you can get stuff done, we know blah, 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 whatever the thing is, we'd love you to come on board, that would be great. And actually, when I thought about it, pretty much over the last 10 years, that's how I've ended up in other jobs, because someone I've worked with before has gone, I really want you for this job, would you consider coming in, blah, blah, blah. So, and then when you look at what the challenges of the job, so rather than looking at the tasks that you were tasked to do, you know, so there was one job that I went into years ago where I could have listed all the tasks out, which were very project management-y type based. But I actually thought, no, the challenge here is we're developing a website that keeps going wrong, so fundamentally wrong, because it was in financial services, that we are at risk of being fined by the FCA. I need to be the person that's between the Spanish developers and the exec, because the exec are kicking off and not getting answers. The Spanish developers don't know which way to go because they're getting so many different directions. So it's just thinking about your challenges as opposed to the tasks.
Yeah.
When you walk away from the role, I mean, you know, things that you're most proud of, and it might not have anything to do with the actual tasks that you were doing. It could be that you walked away and I don't know, I'm trying to think of something. You know, I walked away from a comms role where I had a team of 8 people, and I had and again, I had to be the one making them redundant. They were all at risk of redundancy. I had to reduce my team by 2. But I walked away from that role having mentored to the people that we had to make redundant, so much so that one's gone on to be a head of marketing somewhere else, and the other lady, who was a graduate placement, is just doing great things in London at the moment. So, and that for me, I think, yeah, great. I'm not saying that's all me, but I can walk away from that knowing that those guys were okay.
That's really good. And I think because what can happen, that's a really good structure to use, because what can happen in when we're in this position and we're being ultimately rejected, it's hitting the rejection abandonment button. We can then start to question, are we good enough? What are we good enough? Like, and how to recognize our own skills. And I'm just going to pick up on a comment there that Kirsty's put around. Imposter syndrome is playing a part in my situation right now. I'm so early on in my career. How can I make my CV stand out from those who have perceived years of experience? So what Kirsty's doing is comparing that other people, making a belief that other people have so much more experience, and there are so many other people in situation. So it's around how do you find the strengths, your skills, the confidence. You know, a lot of people don't like to brag or, you know, show the best things of themselves because they think they're being a big headed, but that's what you've got to do, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's another thing there as well about that imposter syndrome is definitely something I've battled with writing this CV as well, and I think that's why it's taken me a little bit longer as well. But it's if you're breaking down every element of your job in those 3 questions, when a recruiter looks at that, they'll be looking at things like, oh, great, okay, well, that person knows how to manage budgets, that person knows how to deal with its leadership skills, you know, things like that. And I think we don't give ourselves enough credit. And I think this was the other thing. I downloaded or I paid for some workbooks from this lady, Adrian. Mm-hmm. She talks about value enhanced CV statements. And this is another thing where I think it's a British thing, but I also think sometimes it's very much a female thing as well. We're not great at kind of, sorry for the being balls out at what we're good at, you know. It's things like, you know, if you say you've managed teams, you know, well, a value, that's a basic statement, but you can say manage multidisciplinary teams of up to 200 people. You know, directed several projects is a simple statement. You could say directed 16 oil and gas projects in 2018 with budgets up to 4 million, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's pulling those types of things out and going through those questions and not being afraid to pull out some of that stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's what we do. We go into interviews, situations, and then we don't want to look like we are, like you say, English bragging, but actually our role is to let the company know that we're the best person for the role. So you have to be able to do some of that stuff, don't you? So
yeah, and I think the other thing as well is, especially for Kirsty, because if it's Kirsty that I know, Kirsty, that's asked that question, experience doesn't equate to time. Just because you've had time served in a role, you could have had your head in ostrich mode and you could have not been learning and you could have just been plodding along doing the things that you always do. So someone who is really keen to throw themselves into new things in their job and what have you, just because you haven't got the years doesn't mean that you haven't got the experience. You know, and sometimes, you know, people are looking for people that aren't kind of set in their ways as to how things are done as well.
And I would just add to that and say talent. Like, just because you haven't got the years doesn't mean you haven't got the talent. So I remember when Donna and I went into working in the financial organisation we did, Donna came in as a senior manager. I joined in the January as a team leader. I was promoted to a senior manager in the April and I hadn't been a senior manager, but they saw something in me, talent in me, that I had the capabilities to step up and do the role that I'd never done because I had a talent in that area. I didn't have experience, but that doesn't mean that Donna and I, when we came into those senior management roles, we ended up then Donna ran the site and I was a right-hand woman. Like all of these senior managers had been working there for like 10, 15, 20 years. That didn't mean that they were better equipped than we were, well, they weren't.
And that's one of the other things that's key as well to pull out. So if you haven't got things that you can say on your CV, like I managed a whatever £1 million budget, or, you know, with like real things, you can pull out things like promoted in record time, or, you know, first person to be promoted within 7 months of being there, or whatever it is, you know, because that's equally as important. I just wanted to get in as well, just one last thing on tips before like name checking. I've realised the time in that, but I always thought, I'm going to swear, I'm sorry, but I always thought that this was a load of shit when people told me this, when they were like, you have to tailor your CV. I'm like, no, like when I send no, they'll just get Yvette from the CV. Yeah, they don't, and they don't care. So I have, for the first time in my adult life, actually got a tailored CV. Now what I did do, which was really it was one of the again tips, was I picked 3 types of role that I want to put myself forward for. So pick your dream jobs, pick whatever it is you want to apply for, and then go and search for those jobs, print a couple of them off and have a look at some of the keywords that they're using and then adjust accordingly, because once you've got a really good CV, it should never be such a mission to then update it. Oh, and the other thing is get a brag book. I know that sounds cool. It can be a physical book or on your computer, but start writing down even the small things like bits of feedback that you've had or projects you've delivered, anything, because I tell you what, when you come to actually writing a CV, that stuff is gold.
Yeah. And Wendy's just saying there as well, we've got loads of comments, but Wendy's just saying these positives are around your whole life. This is about you, yourself. Like, we're all unique. We've all been, nobody else has walked in our shoes. So we've all got something unique to bring to the table. And yes, it isn't just what you've learned about in your roles, it's about your life experience as well. So I wanted to ask you one more thing, Yvette, though, about, and we chatted about this a little bit. When you're in your position and you've worked in corporate and you know, are expected to get a role which is X, Y, and Z, and you have the universe creatively sending you intuition and whispers about certain things that you might want to do, but you've got your family, the other side, or your partner, or the responsibility and the mortgage and the security. How do you know what the right way forward is for you?
I think you've got to really tune into your gut feeling or your knowing or your intuition or whatever it is that you call it. You will know. I think when you look at a job spec online and it just makes you feel a bit, you know, that's guidance. That is guidance. The fact is, I mean, you know, and you guys said this as well, the universe doesn't want you to starve at the end of the day. That's not what it is. And there's an acceptance that, so one or two things could happen. You could end up in a role where, you know, actually this is paying my bills, but it's freeing me up emotionally, spiritually, etc., to pursue whatever it is that the universe is guiding me to. Or, because this has happened in the past, some miracle of synchronicity will happen and you'll end up doing something that you're absolutely passionate about, that you get paid for, that will help, you know, give you all of those things, the security, etc., etc. I'm really strict with myself on one thing about this at the moment, which is if I start going down the what if I can't pay my bills, what if I this, what, you know, that the negative what ifs, I am very insistent, and this is how I train myself with law of attraction, to then have I stop myself, it happens, and I'm like, but what if this is a turning point in your life and something, you know, you get to do the things that you really want to do, you end up becoming a writer or a motivational speaker or whatever it is, you know.
Love it. Love that. So tuning into your intuition.
And trust that. A lot of people have like covered that up, but trust your intuition. That is, you know, that is source energy.
Yeah. And switch your what ifs. When you find yourself future tripping down a negative route, stop yourself and what if the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. Like, these half an hours just fly by, don't they?
I know. I think I think what I'll do, if it's all right with you, is the guys that have been really helpful on LinkedIn from a recruitment perspective, if you're okay, I'll just post those in the link.
Yes.
Yeah, in the comments. Yeah.
Good. Thank you. We've had loads of interaction, loads of comments. So, and Donna's been putting your top tips in as we go as well. So,
yeah. Oh, I hope it was helpful.
This is amazing, and we might have you back in the group doing some other fabulous spiritual stuff, mightn't we? I think
that'd be good.
That, so I think we'll definitely have you back doing some other stuff. But thank you so much for sharing that.
Oh, thanks for having me on, though. It's lovely.
And yes, there's loads of, like I say, loads of interaction in terms of the Love the Brag book as well. Thank you so much, and we thanks for joining us. And we've got we'll have Joe Robertson coming up tomorrow about setting up your own business. So hopefully you will tune in tomorrow for our next Lunchtime Live. But we love you, Yvette. Thank you so much.
Oh, I love you too. Thanks, guys.
Being part of the community. And yeah, if to anyone who's watching, have a fabulous day. I'm just going to stop the stream, Yvette. So I'll just stop stream. Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye.